Assalamualaikum.
Salam. How are you?
Fine, Alhamdulillah, Dr. Sulaiman.
You okay?
How are you?
Yeah, I'm here, just right there.
Yeah. In fact, I guess that Dr. Muallimin will be presenting. So
Oh,
he
okay.
said that you will be the one who present the paper.
Yeah, I'll be presenting the paper, inshallah.
Oh, I see. But I don't have your CV. Can you send me your CV?
Okay, I've already sent it to Dr. Muallimin. If he can send it to you, or how should I send it to you?
You can even send through this Zoom. I think I
Okay.
can load it.
Where is it?
Yeah, you send directly to me, okay?
Okay.
So we have to wait for our presenters. Actually, some of them they might not be able to present for this session.
Oh, okay.
And some of them they will have a recorded presentation. Can you send it?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to find it. Okay, I think, yep.
Okay. Okay. You send as the same time as Dr. Muallimin send it.
Is my voice clear, by the way?
Yeah, it's clear. Okay. By the way, I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. Actually, we have to start on time, but we have to wait for our friends who are coming for their presentation. Okay, I think maybe we can start at or in Thailand now is 1:07 already p.m. Okay. I think we can start at 1:10 maybe, but we have to wait for our friend first. Are you in now? Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, okay. Thank you. One, two, three. So now let me start. I think I have to start it first. Even though the participant and some of the presenters are not in right now, I think it's better we start. First of all, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. I would like to welcome all distinguished guests, professors, scholars, leaders, and all participants to our international conference on the multidisciplinary ASEAN Plus in the age of disruptive society. As we all know that our session is actually is the session of all participants from various countries. And since yesterday, after we opened the ceremony for the first day, we have to thank Assistant Professor Satin Sunthornpan, our Dean of Faculty of Political Science, Assistant Professor Dr. Supong Prapyai, Director of the Ramkhamhaeng University, and the organizing committee led by Assistant Professor Dr. Kan Bunjak Kanchana and all his committee members. Dr. Kan, he is the director also of the Center for Politics and the Area Studies. So we have to thank all these committees who make this international conference happen for our program today. We would like to thank all these people. And today we have 5 papers, and there will be 5 papers that there will be some kind of different presentation, because some of them due to the fact that we have got the accident of some of our colleagues, like Dr. Shamsuddin, Professor Shamsuddin Altaya, the second one who will be presenting his paper on the triumph of diplomacy in the Philippines. How did it work? I actually contact him since 2 days ago, but I couldn't get him until today. I even leave the message for him to call me back, and I didn't get the response. So his paper will be presenting only on the abstract, that if someone want to, or everyone want to read or to pass by his writing, you can check it out, because all the abstract will be in the proceeding. And the second one that we have to tell you earlier, that Dr. Lily Yulyadi Anakin from from Bina Nusantara University, Indonesia, he may not be able to present his paper here also, but he has sent me the recorded presentation for us, in case that he can come earlier. He will be presenting the, so I put him in the last one who will present the paper. Okay, and the other one that I have told just 2 hours ago also, from Professor Dr. Khalid Abdul Wahid from University Technology Mara. He said also that he has some very urgent meeting, and then he promised me that he will send the recorded presentation for this program also. So I have to tell you all this because of the inconvenience that will disturb your participation. I would like to deeply apologize for all this mistake that happened, that we cannot control, or the accident that we cannot control. Okay, then I would like to organize this presentation from the session that we have seen in the announcement. The first one will be the paper on the contour of ASEAN investment law. This paper is written or it authors, there are 3 of them. The first one, Dr. Nur Fadila Muhammad Ali, and she is the one who will be presenting the paper. And the second one, Hendon Abdul Rahman Shah, and the third one, Muallimin Muhammad Shahid from the University Science Islam Malaysia. And we have to go to the details of the presenter first. For Dr. Nur Fadila Muhammad Ali. Actually, she is the senior lecturer of the Faculty of Sharia and Law of University Science Islam Malaysia. Dr. Nur Fadila graduated from International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM, and she got also the Bachelor of Law and Master of Comparative Law, and obtained her PhD from Dundee University or University of Dundee in 2014. And actually, she has a lot of experience, especially she has got the reward from the Dean. We call Dean's Medal for Research from the School of Natural Resource Law. So she has many experience, and right now she I forgot to mention it. She held a lot of position. I mean, a lot of posts, the important posts in the university, and the most recent one is the former dean of the Faculty of Sharia and Law. So, if we talk all about about her experience and a lot of things that we have to read, I think there will be a longer time to read all the all her history. I mean, biodata. So I think it's better for us to give her the time to present. I think you can present even longer. You can present even longer due to the fact that we have only 3 presenters right now with us. You can present even longer because we have a lot of time, 3 hours, and we maybe have the time for this. I think for everyone who will be presenting the first part for 30 minutes, and the second one maybe 10 minutes, because I don't know whether it is longer for you or you want to make it shorter. It's up to you. It's up to you. I give the floor for you now, Dr. Nur Fadila Muhammad Ali. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I share the screen, please?
Yes.
So thank you very much, Assistant Professor Dr. Nipon Soheng, for this kind introduction. And I'm very happy to be together with all of us after this Eid. So this is in Malaysia, we're still in the festive mood of Eid. But Alhamdulillah, this is a very good opener after Eid, and a very challenging topic as well for me, because we are attempting something which is very important for the region. It is about ASEAN. So I will talk about the topic of my presentation. I couldn't share my screen yet as of now. So if you can let me share for a while. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the topic of our presentation is the contours of ASEAN international investment law. And the methodology that we are applying here is the futures methodology. Now, this futures methodology is relatively a new area that we are embarking in. Myself, my colleagues, Dr. Mualimin and Dr. Hindun. Well, basically, we are using this methodology as a method for us to assist us to see what are the developments of ASEAN international investment law. And if all of us those who are perhaps not really familiarized with the methodology, it is an area, a discipline by itself that is raised by UNESCO as a very important skills of the 21st century. So after reading and writing for today, UNESCO said that this future studies should be the third capacity that people should embark in. And in many different nations, we also already see that future studies and futures methodology has been introduced at schools, at universities, and also apart from at the national governance or economic sector. So the context of of ASEAN international investment law, what we mean is we want to see the development of the international investment regime. And what we mean by international investment law is the result of the treaties that states enter into. So in our ASEAN, our individual states have already entered into many investment treaties, either within the members of ASEAN and also with outside countries. So basically, these treaties are to protect investors, giving them certain standards of protection, especially to compensate when there is expropriation, to provide national treatment, to provide the most favored nation principle, fair and equitable treatment. And in case if there is any breach, then the investors of the states can bring an action towards the states in international arbitration. So basically that is the idea of what the law is. So because these treaties are entered into by states differently, okay, but collectively, you can see that these treaties contain similar protections. So because of the similarity, these standards of protection became some sort of like international investment regime, which is familiar to many countries around the world. And investors, whenever they want to invest, they would come and see whether the country has any international investment treaties with their country or not. Okay, so and why is it important in the aspect of ASEAN? It is because in ASEAN, the main agenda, one of the biggest agenda, apart from containing promoting peace and education, one of the biggest agenda in ASEAN is for economic integration, okay, or economic diplomacy together with international trade. So this constitutes one of the major highlights of the ASEAN Charter. In Article 1.5, it says that the purpose of ASEAN is to create a single market, okay? And it also mentions words like a highly competitive, economically integrated, effective facilitation for trade and investment, and etc. So it is also equally encapsulated in the ASEAN Economic Community AEC blueprint, which also where the states adopt the blueprint that the member country will also work towards a single market and production base to be a highly competitive economic region. So that is why I see when the topic when the conference come into my mind, the first thing I think that this is where I should try to explore the topic of international investment law in the context of ASEAN. Okay. All right, so when we talk about disruptions, the catchy word for this conference is disruption, and I enjoyed very much this speech by the keynote speech earlier given yesterday about the disruptions and how ASEAN is responding or is hoped to be responding towards them. So when we talk about these disruptions, we normally refer to the mega trends. Even in future studies, they often begin with the mega trends, and these mega trends we can collect them from research done by United Nations, by WHO, from various international institutes. Okay, and among the big mega trends that we are made to know is the changing demographics. Okay, changing demographics which come with aging workforce, okay, where now people are no longer staying at one place, and at one place is no longer homogeneous. And with that comes issues of perhaps labor shortage because of aging workforce. And then because of the aging workforce as well, the demands of products in the future would be different from the demands of the product in the past. Okay, for example, demand of healthcare, and this comes also with changing of the consumer needs. Okay, another thing is, for example, climate change, which we already know. And what is most important in the context of investment regime is how these investment law would encapsulate these changes of mega trends. Okay, so for example, in the shift of global power in between us in China and India as emerging markets, emerging power in the future, how would ASEAN position itself in the context of investment relations? Okay, so we have tried to look at literatures on international investment law, and also the treaties which the countries sign into. And we found that this area, international investment law, is actually a relatively new area in public international law, okay? Because it is hybrid in nature. When we talk about public international law, it is normally between states, and the beneficiaries are also states. But now when we have international investment laws, treaties are signed into by states, but the benefits are for the investors. So now we see investors bringing states to arbitral tribunals, and although it looks a little bit awkward where the investor claim compensation from states, and states eventually in many arbitral disputes have to pay to investors in a lot of huge sum from the taxpayers' money. So this is basically to show how the evolution of international law has become. It is hybrid in nature. It's no longer public international law. It is public and private international relation. So along the years, since World War II, after 1945, we saw that states are becoming to be more cooperative with each other. In fact, the establishment of the European Union was based on these motivations, that they say that while rather than being in war with each other, okay, being in an economic pact would reduce the possibility of us getting into war. And the EU, the European Union, was basically to promote a longer lasting peace, a lesson which they which they have learned the hard way after a long period of non-peaceful situation. So the drivers of change which brought towards international investment law is, number one, because of the economic theories, okay, that, if it's more efficient for states to produce, then let that state produce and the other states do something else, And because of these economic theories, and then the concept of liberalization, that opened a lot of opportunities for free trade agreements. Free trade agreements entered into many countries throughout the years. And then came globalization, and then came this global economy concept. And because of decolonization, we saw nation states beginning to develop their own and trying to develop their host economic development of their states. And these states became to enter into treaties by many, many other states in order to achieve this purpose. In the past, we saw there is a clear demarcation between capital importing countries and exporting countries. We know the countries from the West are prone to be capital exporting, and we are importing. But today, as years come, there is no clear demarcation of that anymore. We are now, from ASEAN, especially, also both capital importing, capital exporting countries. More BITs, bilateral investment treaties are signed, multilateral investment treaties are signed. In the context of international investment law, in the past, there were a lot of reluctance to sign multilateral investment treaties. That's why we don't have a treaty like GATT or WTO at the international level combining all states, because it is difficult to get all the states to agree with certain provisions, with specific provisions. That is why states, they started off with individual treatments, but individual treaties. But at the end, we see that they are strikingly similar, okay, although there are some variants in some way. And then there was also this signing of the New York Convention. The New York Convention is basically the convention that that endorses or so that recognizes arbitral awards. So basically, if you go to one state and have an arbitration, and then that arbitral tribunal give you an award, you can bring this award to the states that already signed the New York Conventions, and you can enforce the award. So basically, this is something that make international investment law bloom. Okay, and then exit, we have the UNCITRAL, we have also the establishment of international arbitration centers around the world. For example, in Malaysia, we have the AIAC, and London, we have the LCIA, okay, London Commercial International Arbitration Center, and etc. Okay, and in the past, we know that the way states deal with each other is by way of gunboat diplomacy. So it is basically to show their power, okay, countries, to show their power in order to get deals done, right? So if, for example, if there's a breach of any agreement, then states would come and bring their, naval power to, it's sort of like a very aggressive diplomatic relation. So because of that, in the international investment treaties, they have the ISDS, that is the investor-state dispute settlement mechanism. That means if there is any dispute or breach, what the countries should do right now is to bring to an arbitral tribunal, okay, rather than gunboat diplomacy. So this is a little bit of what I gather, we gather basically from 1980s, from 1960, the first bilateral investment treaty was signed into by Germany after the World War, and Pakistan in 1959. Okay, and then states began to enter into bilateral investment treaties. In 1980, there were 385 treaties. But you look at from 1980 to 1990s, by the end of 1990s, there are already 1,857. And today, or last 2 years, as of December 2020, we saw already 2,600 international investment treaties around the world. So this is to show how big actually this area is. And we are in 2020, and by 2022 or around this year, these few years, these agreements which are normally which bind parties for 20 or 30 years, they are now coming to like an end, and now they are in the renegotiation phase. So during the renegotiation phase, we also see the trends and emerging trends by states trying to include more provisions inside, basically to safeguard the states, okay, from being brought to arbitral tribunals due to unpredictable reasons. All right, so we also put this timeline basically on the ASEAN shared history and disruptions. The introduction of ASEAN at the first place is a result of a disruption at that time where we were trying to combat communism. Okay, and because of that crisis, we came up with a solid, radical, to me, it's a radical effort towards uniting us together, okay, by way of the promulgation of ASEAN. There were also other issues along the time. For example, food crisis, which we also gathered into, and that we also tackled into it by way of collective measures, okay? And then along the time as well, we had oil crisis, which hit, which of the global impact, and then where some of our countries within ASEAN were also facing domestic crisis, okay, conflict or war, and then also Vietnam ended its basically engagement with the United States around 1960s. And then we also saw other issues like financial crisis in 2000, and we also have territorial disputes going around. Some territorial disputes were diffused and some are still ongoing right now. And basically by doing this, we see what are the issues that we are basically facing together. Okay, and many of these issues, we need concerted efforts in order to address them. And right now, we are also looking at the future paradigm of ASEAN post 2025. What will be the picture of ASEAN in the future? Okay, in this diagram, I tried to capture the investment agreements that we have within ASEAN. So in the middle circle there, I put intra-ASEAN BITs. That means we have international bilateral investment treaties amongst us. Okay, we also have individual investment treaties with others. like Malaysia with United States, Malaysia with England, Malaysia with many other states around the world. Okay, apart from that, we also have intra-ASEAN, we have ACIA. Okay, ACIA is under the AEC blueprint. Okay, as a region, the region also enters into agreement with outsides. Okay, these are among them, which are big in nature. We have the ASEAN dealing with Australia and New Zealand FTA, free trade agreement. We have ASEAN and China, ASEAN and South Korea, ASEAN Hong Kong, and ASEAN India. And apart from these, we also have ASEAN in the form of a bigger dimension multilateral investment treaty, which is the CPTPP, and also the RCEP. Okay, so and all these agreements, they have this investment chapter, and this investment chapter, they provide the standard of protections given to the foreign investors. Now here I introduce here, as a result of our discussion, we put this futures triangle. This is a method to see the dynamic of our struggle to move towards the future. And in the effort to go towards the preferred future here, we took the descriptions of the future that ASEAN wants by way of looking at the treaties. So in the treaties, we could see in the preamble, in its draft, you can see these words. ASEAN, in the context of international investment law, wants to be as an investment destination, want to have promotion incentives, want to protect investors, transparency, and also be progressively liberalized. And it is also emerging right now that investment agreements also contain elements of sustainability. And at the same time, towards going to the future, we also have certain weights that is trying to, we are struggling with these weights always. And that is why ASEAN is known as the ASEAN way in dealing with things. Okay, for example, we still have these issues of individual states because of various reasons, because of fear, perhaps because of uncertainty, perhaps because of issues of trust. So there are still matters in which we have in the ASEAN region. For example, there are investment restrictions and impediments. Okay, maybe some writers have also said there's lack of strategic vision, or perhaps there's also weak leadership. There are also diverging priorities by states, and there are also still regional issues which are big and important, but still have not really been addressed as a region. Okay. And then at the same time, there are also potentials of ASEAN. At the same time, we know that our strength is that we adopt agendas like AEC. We have these standards of protections. Okay, we are not so bad, okay, as compared to perhaps some other countries to which investors would not go. ASEAN is actually one of the best destinations around the world. And then we also understand that conflicts must be resolved peacefully, and that also can also be seen from our dealings of things. And our DNA is we do important decisions through consultation and consensus. And the principle of non-interference is one of the most important DNA of ASEAN, which we think that is also a factor in many decision-making. Okay, in order to see what are the trends of international investment law, one way is to look at the ASEAN investment reports. So in the ASEAN investment reports, we could see that it has captured important developments. For example, in the year 2020, it talks about digital change. It talks about the disruption. It talks about how ASEAN has to work towards Industry 4.0. So this includes investments in the area of digital infrastructure, digitalization of manufacturing, etc. And in 2019, because of the COVID-19, that is a big disruption. And we saw how the healthcare industry has to be dealt with by ASEAN. And same goes to other aspects which are encapsulated in the investment reports. The ASEAN investment agreements, which I've mentioned just now, it contains some standards of protection which are basically similar between each other. Okay, so there are many issues surrounding these standards of protection. Number one is about covered investments, because sometimes the covered investment is not clear. Okay, which investment is this treaty covering? Okay? Because many treaties are telling us that that only investment which are in accordance with the law and policies of the state. So the question is, what are the laws and policies of the states? So the investors will have to do more homework to see what are the law and policies of Thailand, or what are the law policies of Malaysia. So there is no one hard and fast rule. So well, that's the ASEAN way. Okay, and then the investment protection standards, we have the expropriation, we have national treatment, most favored nation principle, etc. And then there's another provision that provides for if there is any dispute, you go to arbitral tribunal, that is called as the investor state dispute settlement provision. And then one DNA of ASEAN is in ASEAN treaties, we have a lot of exceptions and reservations. So these are also things which at the international level, if you look at legal scholarships, they will be talking about why are there so many exceptions for agreements. Okay. All right, so it is also interesting when we look at arbitral disputes. We don't have cases within ASEAN countries in international investment law, but we do have decisions, ASEAN states with outside other extra relationship with other investors of other countries. And these decisions of arbitral tribunals, we can refer to see what is the direction of the law. Okay, so we know that slowly in arbitral decisions, the arbitrators are now also talking about issues of sustainability, issues of interaction of the law, and also other obligations, for example, human rights, obligations of public morality, etc. So there are interpretational tools, like the tools of reasonableness, the tools of legitimate expectation are being used. Okay, or precautionary principle are being used in the interpretation of the treaties. However, we must bear in mind that in investment law, there is no judicial precedence. Judicial precedence is like in the domestic law, we have a situation where the higher court will bind the lower court. So when there is decision made before, then we can refer to that decision as a guidance for the other following decisions. But in international investment law, every arbitral tribunals are separate by itself, and there is no there's no guarantee that the decision will be consistent with the earlier decisions. So that is the characteristic of international investment tribunals. And what we want is for the preferred future, this is for any international investment law, is that we hope that the decisions of the arbitral tribunal to be towards economic equality, towards social justice, okay, towards the rule of law, because we know that arbitral tribunals, they as compared to International Court of Justice, their workings are not so geared towards the concept of justice, but they are more towards what is according to the treaties, you know. So these are some of the issues in international investment law, talking about the direction of the jurisprudence in the future. Okay, so I've mentioned just now that references to environment is also increasingly there, okay, because of disruption of climate change today. And then among others are emerging issues which we put in the form of futures will. Okay, one example we put in the middle is as an emerging issue is because of the inconsistent formulation of standard of protections. Again, there are many agreements, but different stipulations. So it could give impact to other matters. Okay, so among the matters which would result to this is the uncertainty of the protection. So the legitimate of expectation of investors will be wide. Okay, and then we will rely a lot on the arbitral decisions for arbitration. Okay, and then there could be inconsistent awards. So there could be treaty shopping. Okay, so for example, if you think that this treaty, Malaysia and Thailand is not really helpful for us. You go for the RCAP, for example. So that is treaty shopping and looking at the best decision for the investors, for example. And then that would create parallel arbitrations. I mean, at the same time, with one issue, you can get 2 or 3 arbitrations going on together, and that would not be good for the investment regime as a whole. All right. So, and the impact of it, the legitimacy of the international investment law will be questioned. And because of that, frustrations will come up because of investment decisions. Like, for example, in Latin American countries, there have also been a retraction from investment treaties. They say, okay, we're going to retract ourselves from the treaty because it's no use, because there are 2 or 3 arbitral tribunals are giving decisions and all are providing compensation from the states. Okay. So we have also put here 4 diagrams, 4 quadrum or 4 boxes to put the 4 scenarios of ASEAN. Okay, so in a linear way, we know that we want to go towards a preferred ASEAN future based on the treaties. The treaties want, and based on literatures, based on scholarship discussions. What ASEAN wants is it wants strong ASEAN centrality, but even then we do not know what it means by centrality. Well, perhaps it's shared values, or perhaps it is the initiatives that which we want to make it central. Okay, and then what we want is an ASEAN future which is not really, we could have disputes, but we are not geared towards having a court for disputes so much like that. But what more is, we want a spirit of dispute avoidance at the first place. Okay, and even if we have to go to a tribunal or whatsoever, we respect the process and the mechanisms of the international dispute settlement mechanism. And then we want an investment regime which is principle based, which is good for public. Okay, even though we promote investors, etc., but we still have concentration on public health and etc., which is an ASEAN investment future which is flexible, which is open, which is transparent, which is forward-looking, which have a positive investment peace approach. Okay, and not depending on the law for us to become peaceful, but it is by way of a positive peace. And then which is competitive, which is dynamic, which is resilient to global changes, which incorporates sustainability agenda, and perhaps we can move on to lead the sustainability agenda, a green economy approach, and then which contains productive dialogues, which have the unity in approach in addressing problems, which have mutual trust, respect and benefit, and which has a predictable investment standards. And what we do not want, the worst case scenario of ASEAN future, is we do not want ASEAN investment regime to be uncertain, unattractive, and then states are very holding hardline positions. We do not have trust, a theater of conflict, using gunboat diplomacy to settle things, and a divided, or at the end, perhaps the death of ASEAN. Okay, but and now we have another quadrant that is adaptive ASEAN future. That is what basically we are doing right now, trying our best to achieve a future best. Okay, what we have right now is we have this reservation list. Okay, we are depending on a lot of interpretations tools like reasonableness, legitimate expectation, and we are responsive to issues, but we are still constantly struggling with also domestic issues. Okay, in tandem with the ASEAN effort. Outlier, perhaps other disruptions which come, maybe in the future, we do not know. Maybe our territorial feature would be altogether different from today, since we, as our states are basically new after the World War II, United Nations, the formation of Malaysia, etc., and other countries. We don't know how the future will be in the future, and that would create another scenario altogether. This is basically my conclusion at the end. It is an ongoing area. We know that treaties are being renegotiated. And then there are also issues of termination of outdated treaties. We want to reform dispute mechanism. Okay, and these are among the issues. What we don't want is, we do not want the rise of protectionism. and etc. So investment treaties are basically a game, like a football match. You put all the guidelines and rules. So if everyone is playing according to the rules of the football session, then everyone is okay because we are all familiar with it. But in case if it doesn't work, if the referee is biased, if the rules are, not working, then perhaps we have to revamp altogether. And does it mean that we have to play another game? So that is all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Fadila. Very insightful and very, very intensive details of all the laws, and because of the topic itself, it tell us about the contour. So everything will be all in the ASEAN investment law. And what I can recapture for this presentation, that what we are talking about is the law, especially we are concerning on the economic perspective of each country in the ASEAN. And also we are looking after the law of the ASEAN also, that we should oblige to be obliged to the ASEAN laws. So Dr. Fadila that has mentioned all about the chronology of the laws, and everything is about or concerning the disruption that since the beginning of the ASEAN itself, and until now, that we can see that the disruption among the level of the state itself, the individual state has to come with their own interests or in national interests. So if they don't follow the rule of law or the rule of the games, then they will not they cannot achieve the ASEAN objectives for sure. That what we can see. So what Dr. Nur Fadila has said also, that the objective of the ASEAN has to be the promotion of the ASEAN's individual state, and to see the transparency and the progress and the sustainabilities. And it should be also emphasized on the ASEAN as the destination for the investment itself, because right now we can see that we are the most favorite region that the investors will come to invest in these countries. And we among the individual states itself, we also invest in the ASEAN.
Yeah.
We exchange, right? So I think there will be some question from our participant also, that we will open it, I think, after the whole presentation, or I think we can talk after this, or we can start now. I think it's better I give the floor for 5 minutes first, for in order to get a fresh idea. Otherwise, we when we leave for another presenter to present another topics, then we may forget what we have been listening. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I think now it's better for us to open the floor from all participants. If anyone wants to to ask the question, I give you the question. I give you the chance, okay? Prof. Dr. Sulaiman, maybe you have a question.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Assalamualaikum
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi Prof. Sulaiman.
Are you okay?
Yeah, fine. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Dr. Fadila, thank you for your interesting presentations on investment law. I think we should think about who is going to lead this agenda. I think we have to identify first. Secondly, I think ASEAN community is still in process of reconstruct many issues. For example, counterterrorism, unity, diversity, and issue of non-constructive engagement on certain issues, whereby we should have mutual agreed upon on certain issues, which is a fact that members of ASEAN community, I think, before we embark upon treaties. And of course, a treaty is very important. Look at the future investment. Of course, Thailand will be the first country who is going to invite foreign investors. And the next, we have to think about treaties. When this comes to Thailand, for example, we have to look at for example, issues on tax incentive, issues of international arbitration, the issues of hierarchy of court, issue of transparency, sustainability. I think those issues are very important. I think those issues have to be tackled first before, and I think if we work on treaties, it is okay, but it's still among us. For example, yesterday, one participant raised an issue concern about war in Ukraine, and we see that the Singapore he has their own ways to solve the problems. I think those issues. I think we have to think further whether we are going to discuss among us, or we are going to separate because of they have their own personal interest or conflict of interest. We don't know. But when it comes to investment, foreign investment, for example, they are coming to our countries. We have to think two things. First, they are going to develop, of course, local community be able to, for example, labor market expertise on various levels. They can develop the skill. We have to prepare our potential to develop this region. But sometimes it doesn't work in that way. We have to be strong enough and united in our community and try to figure out the principled guidelines which can protect our members first before we embark upon thing which is beyond our control. I think, and of course, expertise on various fields is needed, especially when we talk about treaties. Is there any members ASEAN community willing to bring this issue and discuss among us, among our members, or we have already formulated committees, steering committees, and bring this discussion annually in order to solve the problem, future problems. I think that's all my suggestion, comments on your presentation. Thank you, Dr. Fadila, for your presentation. Very interesting. In fact, it's my area of study. I would do research, inshallah, in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sulaiman. Yeah. I think what you've mentioned is very interesting because things are not working in isolation. Everything is interconnected. Even issues of terrorism, we can see that as one of the impacts of globalization, and the impacts of FDI is what is more worrying to me, as you said just now. For example, like for the environment or the values that we are holding as the people of Asia. Okay, and then this rapid urbanization. Like when I want to go to my house, I can already see 3 or 4 KFCs in front of my house. I mean, nobody asked for it, but it's there. So as well as the malls, you got to see a lot of malls around. So we somehow we lost our identity of ASEAN in sculpturing our own, landscape, and other issues like inequality and etc. So these are the dilemma. Often we know that we should have thought about these things first before entering into treaties, but in many instances it doesn't work that way, because somehow the urge towards monetary, towards this consumerism goes very fast, and government lags behind, and then let the government deals with the issues later. So that is the problem. And what I see, what ASEAN can do as a group is we identify these areas, for example, inequality. What can we do to assist the young people when facing globalization? All these, I know it's a bit hard, difficult, because we are dealing with aftermath of globalization. Thank you, Dr. Sulaiman.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sulaiman, and the responses from Dr. Fadila Ali. Maybe there are some other questions. In fact, I have a question myself that if the individual states or the member state of the ASEAN themselves breach the law, what should they do to finish the issue?
Okay. In ASEAN, I see there's a different provision which is mentioned in the RCEP. I think it doesn't go straight to arbitral tribunal. It opens more towards peaceful negotiations. If there's mediation or there is any other form of conciliations, that is the best way, because if you go to arbitral tribunals, then the tribunals will give awards, and these awards we have to pay a lot of money from the taxpayers' money. So that's a good development, I see. And perhaps you would know better in terms of diplomacy. Okay, maybe we are going towards that more rather than going to structural hierarchical court system, etc.
I see. What I can see is the mechanism to apply the law is up to the ASEAN state to follow. That you mentioned before, the chopping cities, right? So you will chop only what suits you, right? Right?
Yeah. Shopping.
Okay. That is another point that we may face the future face the problem in the future. But anyway, I think if all the ASEANs, especially the member states, are willing to organize the full or to follow the full mechanism of the ASEAN laws or treaties, I think that one will solve problems very easy, because it passed through the what you call just now negotiation, right?
Yeah.
Then we can get the solution. Okay. Maybe from the floor, from other participants. Actually, we have very few today. Muhammad, maybe you are concentrating.
No, I did not discuss. I did not. I have for the time being. I hold up until I present my paper, so I don't want to disturb my presentation because it is closely related to what Dr. Fadila has presented. Actually.
Yeah, actually, what I have seen is there are at least three papers who are talking about the ASEAN, directly. this paper from Dr. Fadila, and the other one from Dr. Muhammad bin Abu Bakar, and the third one from Dr. Lily. Okay.
Later on, after we discuss, I present my paper, we will have more more issues to be discussed.
Okay.
That perhaps after that discussion, we will come up with some recommendation what should be done for ASEAN the way forward.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad. Okay, so then now we now move to the next topic, the ASEAN transformation from social economic to regional security community. Actually, this one will be the fourth one. So I achieve it. We have to adjust, okay, to the second one due to the fact that the other three, two of them will be presenting on the recording. I mean, on the recorded presentation. So we are left only two of you, Dr. Muhammad. So I have to introduce him first. That Dr. Muhammad bin Abu Bakar, right now his affiliation is from University of Malikus Saleh, Indonesia. His PhD, he obtained his PhD also from IIUM. So he has a lot of experience in Malaysia because his first degree, second degree from IIUM, you know, first degree, second degree, and third degree, or the highest degree, PhD, political science, from IIUM. Dr. Muhammad Abu Bakar, he used to be a head Department of Political Science, University of Malikus Saleh, from the year 2012 to 2015, and right now he holds the position as the head Department of Magister or master degree, right? Master degree in public administration. His field of interest is about the international relation and some of the field of civil society and political theory. Okay, that is field of interest. So I think we don't need to read his biodata for so long. I think I have a good time for him to present his paper right now. Okay, تفضل Muhammad. Yes. You don't open the microphone yet.
All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon to all participants and presenters and panelists of today's conference. And special thanks to Dr. Assistant Professor Dr. Ipon or Dr. Musa, as I know him. And I would like to congratulate also Dr. Fadila, who has presented the paper. Very enjoyable paper and very rich, very exhaustive research on the law and investment. And I would like also to greet here Dr. Sulaiman Dorlo. He was my senior. I was doing my first degree. He was doing his master degree in education. I'm not sure, if I'm not mistaken.
In law.
And in law, yeah, in law. I'm sorry, in law. But we were together with Dr. Musa, Dr. Nippon in political science and also in PhD program. So it's a kind of limited process of reunion of alumni, IUM alumni, or Malaysian alumni. I don't know. So Dr. Fadila also from IUM, mashallah. But anyway, our presence here, though of course is like a reunion of alumni, but it should not be indifferent to other brothers and other participants that coming from different university. I hope our presentation later on, it will shed a light and give enlightened ideas for understanding on how the transformation of Asian organization from social economic cooperation to security community at the regional level. Allow me to share the slide. I hope the slide that I have prepared could give us the what you call beat the pictures of how ASEAN has transforming itself from a very simple organization to a very complicated and perhaps complex and multi-purpose organization. And I know that most of us already, we have been reading about ASEAN for quite some time, particularly on the development of this organization. Actually, the declaration of ASEAN and the formation of Asian Organization Association is a kind of giving hope to all members countries in ASEAN, how to get together, how to share the similarities, how to manage the differences, and how the more interaction that we establish among members, the more understanding among us, the more what we call oneness in the form of vision, regional vision in response to the world politics. And I was thinking what I'm going to write about this Asian, because after several years joining the local university in Aceh, in particular, the issue of Asian is quite slowing down. We have been busy with the local politics and local economic development, social development in Aceh itself, which is very rich, and it has occupied our time. So by the time the organizer contacting me, it was a great pleasure, of course, to have joining the conference. Also, although I have to do a lot of work again to read again about the present development of the association. After all, in our university, it seems like ASEAN is not gaining important attention from the local government, perhaps because they have been based on regional government, and only it is in Jakarta that idea of Asian is very important. But one thing that for sure is that Aceh was the place for the first time after the declaration of the association, ASEAN Association, the first jointly investment of fertilizer factory industry was set up in northern part of Aceh, in Los Mawe. They call ASEAN fertilizer factory, AIF, Asian fertilizer factory. But now, almost 10 years since, yeah, after a decade, it was closed, and the factory has been closed, and it has been shifted to another part of Indonesia. And that factory actually was jointly investment among member state by then. So it was only 6 members that include Brunei. Okay, the topic today is transformation of the Asian from socio-economic cooperation to security community. And so to make it clear, I think we have to, here is the executive name. The ASEAN organization has been developing rapidly since, from only 5 members founders countries to 10 that had admitted several former communist countries and authoritarian countries. Formerly, it was democratic pro-country, and most of them, I think, sponsored. Whether there is a clear sponsor from America or not. It was officially declared as the form organization that is working in strengthening the socio-cultural and economic cooperation among ASEAN members with the spirit of friendship and mutual consultation in solving conflict among its members. I remember when I was doing when I was taking the class on ASEAN foreign policy. I was very fortunate to have a lecturer, Datuk Muhammad Muda, and he was presenting to us how Malaysia treat Asian. See how Malaysian foreign policy has put Asian as one of the agenda of its international affairs. Firstly, it was, let's say, if at the first priorities is the national interest, the second priority, then it goes to regional, that is the interest of the ASEAN members countries. And then it goes to the interest of Islamic OIC countries. And then it goes to the international communities. So it was under the leadership of Mahathir by then, Dr. Mahathir. And we can visualize how strategic is the foreign policy has been formulated under the leadership of Mahathir, particularly in terms of how Malaysia is trying to play an important role in promoting the interests of ASEAN members. The idea of transforming ASEAN to regional security community is considered to be most ambitious idea forwarded by Indonesian representative. As we know, Indonesia is the big brother of all members countries in Asia. Regarding the population, we are very big, of course, and in terms of the geopolitics, also we have a very vast territories. Okay, so sometimes we Indonesian consider ourselves as the big brother of the Asian. So we have the what you call the responsibility to guard and to protect all our sisters in Asian organization. So as one of the founder state and most of the members said, before this idea was proposed, as a matter of fact, there were several trade and economic cooperation initiated by the Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. We call this Golden Triangle, Golden Triangle Treaty. However, the cooperation slowly getting less popular among member states, and among the reasons were that most of the Asian members are approaching similar product. Then question, will the idea to form security committee will meet similar and as other cooperative program? the paper proposed that the biggest challenge that would be faced in the formation of security community by the ASEAN state are unsettled border disputes among members countries, internal conflict within member state, and finally is the question of trust and betrayal among member states as all of them are pursuing their national interests. So the assumption that we have to establish when we talk about ASEAN security community, I think we have to bear in mind that every state members has to put the priorities that how to make sure that their national interest is fulfilling in the world politics, how they they defend the national interest, how they promote the national interest. I think that has become the central issues of the nation state, particularly after the World War II, and that is the assumption has been developed by the new realist approach to the world politics. So before we discuss about the challenge, the opportunities and the challenges, I think we go back to the historical nostalgia, the ASEAN inspiration. I think this have to be all the time. We have to remember how the forefathers, how the prime ministers, foreign ministers of all these member countries have come together and sit down and discussing about how how important is to have a regional organization association, because they believe that through this association, the voice of the minorities, the voice of the people in Southeast Asia will be better heard, rather than to speak alone without the association. So here are several quotes that I have compiled, and I have quoted from the paper written in the celebration of anniversary of ASEAN. The first is the quote from the Adam Malik, the late Adam Malik, the late foreign minister of Indonesia. And he said the Indonesian vision of Southeast Asia developing into a region which can stand on its own feet. So an independent region, strong enough to defend itself against any negative influence from outside the region. I can see that how the foreign minister of Indonesia is so much concerned about the rapid expansion of communism that already encroaching one by one of the state in the Indochina. If all of us remember the Johnson theory, I think that they call domino theory. So one by one will fall under the influence of communism that encroaching from Russia to China, and then Vietnam and Laos, and then Cambodia, and go through. So one way to contain the rapid expansion of communism then seemed like the foreign affairs minister of all these members, ASEAN members countries, share the ideas that we have to contain the expansion of the communism, because they believe in democracy. And then also we have the Tun Abdul Razak. He said, we, the nation and people of Southeast Asia, must get together and form by ourselves a new perspective and a new framework for our region. It is important that individually and jointly we should create a deep awareness that we cannot survive for long as independent but isolated people unless we also think and act together, and unless we prove by it that we belong to a family of Southeast Asian nation, bound together by ties of friendship and goodwill, and imbued with our own ideal and aspiration, and determined to shape our own destiny. So they share the ideas that I always remember when our professor, Muhammad Muda, before he left to Namibia to be the ambassador, the high commissioner over there from Malaysia, he keep on saying that to speak alone is less effective. So when we speak in the form of association, then people will heard us better. And then we have foreign minister from Singapore, by then is Namrayat. If ASEAN would succeed, he said, then its member would have to marry national thinking with regional thinking. I think this is what has been all the time influencing the way how the foreign minister of Malaysia thought when they see how Asian countries should react in vis-a-vis the world politics, vis-a-vis the what you call the expansion of world power, whether it is America or Soviet Union by then, and now perhaps the US and the China. We must now think at two levels. We must think not only of our national interests, but posit them against regional interests. See, that is a new way of thinking about our problem. And these are two different things, and sometimes they can conflict. Second, we must also accept the fact, if we are really serious about it, that regional existence means painful adjustment to those practice and thinking in our prospective countries. We must make this painful and difficult adjustment. If we are not going to do that, the regionalism remains a utopia. So again, what the ideas of EU today has been shared by our founding fathers of Asian countries. They have the ideas that one day Asian can have one passport. Asian can have one currency, money. Asian can have a parliament. See, but what has been said should be bear in mind. And then also Dr. Thanat Homan. He was the host of this negotiation, and he said, building a new society that will be responsive to the need of our time and efficiently equipped to bring about for the enjoyment and the material as well as spiritual advancement of our people. Condition of stability and progress, particularly what millions of men and women in our part of the world want to erase the old and obstacle concept of domination and subjugation of the past and replace it with the new spirit of give and take, of equality and partnership. More than anything else, they want to be master of their own house, to enjoy the inherent right to decide their own destiny. It was a very, very strong inspiration that should shared by the new generation today. And finally is Ramos, the father of president of Philippines. The 10 years of the negotiation that precede the signing of declaration that truly tax the goodwill, the imagination, the patience and understanding of 5 participating ministers. That ASEAN was established at all in spite of these difficulties, he said, meant that its foundation had been solidly laid, and he impressed its own audience of reformer, official and media people who had witnessed the signing ceremony that a great sense of urgency had prompted the minister to go through all that trouble. Actually, before the Asian declaration, several organizations has been tried to be formed by jointly Thailand and Philippines and Malaysia, sometimes Malaysia, Indonesia and Singapore, ASA, you know? And then they have SITO, but all failed. Only in 1967, when all these, the 5 foreign ministers of Asian countries, after long discussion, long negotiation, and changing ideas, they come up with declaration that later on known to be Declaration of ASEAN Association. We should be very thankful to these people for their effort so that the association that we are proud of today until today still survive and continue to develop, to expand, and from 5 to 6, from 6 to 10 perhaps there will be 11 with East Timor. So and then we go to the ASEAN responses to world politics. ASEAN has progressively entered into several formal and legally binding instruments. So in response, here is what we have. In November 71, Malaysian proposed cooperation for Japan, zone of peace, freedom, and neutrality. And then they have, in response to conflict that occurred within members countries, whereby the members countries already decided that consultation would be the only means that could be used by the member state to solve their conflict or dispute. Not until the case of Natuna and Sepadan and Legitan Island, where Malaysia and Indonesia were distributing the possession of these two islands. Sim consultation has failed, and that finally brought to the International Court of Justice, whereby the two islands were handed to Malaysia. And this border conflict still there, still continues. Partly Island and then Natuna Island also still under dispute among the states. And then when the nuclear proliferation also campaigning, and Asian countries already signed the treaty that Southeast Asia should be free of nuclear weapon. And finally is the Asian Political Security Community. This is a very, very way looking forward ideas that how ASEAN can develop into some kind like NATO, yeah, not to the extent of NATO perhaps, but at least to maintain the stability and security of the region. The same thing also in economic, they have rule-based economic integration, market economy, and this has been discussed by Dr. Fadila in her law of investment. And the challenge will be here, people-oriented. See, people-oriented. We, the people of the member state of the Association of Association Nation, yeah, at least 10 of 5 purpose of ASEAN directly related to the people ASEAN. See, with related to people orientation, here is the challenge. Here is the problem. Most of the time, most of the Asian countries has not been able to settle down the problem that faced by the issue that related to the people of ASEAN. And in terms of opportunity, before we coming to challenges, we have the opportunity to be great organization, of course. What is more, what we call the head of the state already committed, yeah, they have already new political commitment, that is to unite under one vision, one identity, one caring, and one sharing community. If this commitment is implemented, these three will be realized. That is, ASEAN political security community will be realized, and then ASEAN economic community will be enhanced, and ASEAN socio-cultural community also will be enhanced. All these things. So this is what the opportunity they have. For the time when they have mutual interest, independent among ASEAN people, common objective, and shared identity. See, member states shall take all necessary. Perhaps they have to learn. All of us, all the member states have to learn from the previous leadership of Malaysia, who has already the strategic foreign policy planning, where the first is national interest, second is regional interest, that is Asian countries' interest, and then the OIC interest, and goes to the people of the world. But unfortunately, yeah, the first and the foremost challenge the ASEAN is facing as an organization has been the absence of custodianship and strong institution that guaranteed the collective decision could be implemented successfully. This one is Kim Kong Heng in his argue in his article, ASEAN Challenge and the Way Forward. And this is related to what Dr. Dorlo has forwarded the question to Dr. Fadila, when the problem of conflict, when the treaty and how it is could be implemented, because we don't have the custodianship strong one and strong and institutional. Until now, I think we don't have a headquarter for the ASEAN. We have all representative in every member state. They have their own headquarter of Asian countries, of Asian Association. And this has made the what called the administration is not very effective. The second challenge would be the present transformation of world power rivalry. Although, of course, there is because Francisco Fukuyama and also Efren Toffler and also what we call this Huntington already declared the triumphs of liberal democracy and capitalism on the communism, and the Fukuyama already declared the end of history, you know. But seem the world is keep on rolling, and the newborn Cold War, we are witnessing the newborn Cold War, although in the different form, not in the form of like Soviet Union and America. If we go back to the past, to the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the US, it is the ideology is so dominant. The fight for ideology is so dominant in that time. But for the time being, in the new Cold War, is very much economical, and it seems like the ideology is less important now. Yeah, this is the way my assumption is less important, because the idea is how to control the world, how to control the mineral of the resources of the world. And the third challenge would be the absence of strong and well-experienced leadership that would be well respected by member countries. This is what all members of Asian countries facing. Our leaders are young leaders, and they have not been living under the colonialization. So the sense of independence, the sense of freedom is compared to the past leadership is very weak. That's why very easy for them to cling themselves to the force, to new power of the world. They follow the trend. They follow. so much different with the leadership that they have a decade ago. Malaysia was trying to have a comeback, to make a comeback of the old experienced leader like Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. But it seems the time is not right anymore. The time has changed. So the situation also changed. The condition has changed. People has changed. And as we can see that as the what you call the rapid development of democracy within the Asian countries, we can see how the freedom of speech, freedom to information, everything has affected the respect that people have toward their leadership. Although, of course, there are still members countries that practices authoritarianism, but they are what you call the lack of respect and legitimacy. So this experience, this leadership, we are facing the absence of this leadership now. And the fourth challenge, the Asian member countries each are facing their own unique local social, economic, and political challenges. What is more, we have been hit by the pandemic of COVID-19, and it has become worse and forced all the countries, members countries, have no choice but to focus on addressing their own domestic affairs. It certainly would affect the performance of the organization as a whole. We can see that from the 1995, from the 1992 up to 1999, before the global economic crisis, Asian is considered to be a sleeping giant, the tiger of ASEAN. Indonesia is performing very well in terms of its economic in GNP annually is increasing 6%. Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Brunei. See? So it seems like if the economic crisis did not occur in the late 1990s, by 1998, perhaps the idea of Asian nation already realized, already founded. We have one passport, one currency. But unfortunately, as we move side by side for the economic development, we have been hit by the world economic crisis, which has affected the economic system of the Asian members countries. So we have to, again, like Indonesia, after the fall of the Suharto, although in terms of democratization has been applauded, has been considered to be the most democratic state after the Suharto, the fall of the Suharto. But unfortunately, in terms of the economic, it's crawling back up to the what called the financial, the foreign loan also has been increased, particularly during the Jokowi, has been 100% increase in terms of foreign loan. And then the fifth challenge, the ASEAN also is facing serious and unsettled security challenge within the region, such as border dispute. Until now, we still have the dispute in terms of border. And this is challenge. How could we have a security community, regional security community, if among us, we still quarrel about the border? And then illegal migration. Yeah, from Indonesia to Malaysia, from Burma to the what you call the idea of boat people, the Rohingyas, ethnic crisis such as the case of Rohingyas. This problem, this issue, these human rights issues is considered strengthening, challenging the idea of building a collective regional security community. What is more, as we can see that there are certain states has act as terrorists toward their own people. This is very sad. This is not easy. The sixth challenge, with no exception of the challenges that come from outside of the region, such as territorial dispute in South China Sea, that is partly island and no island. I think the Philippines, Brunei, they have border dispute, territorial dispute with China. And finally, the ASEAN is also facing other key challenges, including terrorism, and then violation of human rights in Burma, the rise of authoritarianism. All sudden, people are moving toward authoritarianism, corruption, uneven social development, economic development disparities, the adoption of technology, and environment degradation. So these are the challenges that we have to face. And actually, all ASEAN members countries have their own homework to finish. They have to start from within. They have to prepare from within. At the same time, building a good relationship among the member states. So because of these challenges, certainly the issue of what we call this one, prejudice, suspicious, hostility, is very easy to be triggered among the member state of ASEAN. What the whole ASEAN Association now is that together is the policy that they have been agreed upon, that non-member state should interfere in the affairs of the domestic issues, in the internal affairs of each member state. But that is related to other issues. For instance, like Rohingyas, the issue of Islam, the issue of Muslim, the issue of Buddhists. See, it comes. And then the issue of terrorism also, it comes also. How religion has been abused. Religion has been used for political purposes of Oknum elite politics within the Asian countries. So to conclude, the Asian members countries has been always the countries of power and influence, attraction of the world power. It has become the center of attraction. America, the US, the United States will never let Asian alone. The same thing with China. I think the relationship between Southeast Asian countries and China, it has been long established long ago, since the ancient time, since the Ming dynasty, before even Indonesia has been known. And the United States also never let's go Asian countries to stand alone. That's why they try to give the idea like what you call APEC session, American Southeast Asian economic, and China, you see all this. And then it was formed with the initial aim to contain the rapid expansion of communism into the region. But now seem the failure of democracy to contribute to the regional development. The idea of communism is, particularly in Indonesia, is already rising. And I'm afraid because Indonesia is the big brother of Asian countries, it may influence, bring influence to another members countries. The Southeast Asia bloc was regarded as catalyst for peace and stability in the region because Melanesia are the people who love peace and stability. It has become the dream of the founding fathers of Asia that its members should cooperatively achieve the social development, minimizing disparity in economic development and adoption of technology, stop environmental degradation, enhancing democracy, respect for human rights, and put an end to any act of terrorism. So this has to be tackling down. We have to take action on this cooperatively, of course. We have to promote this. All this dream could only be realized by enhancing communication and interaction not only among the government, but also the citizens of members countries. Through intense interaction and exchange of ideas, a better mutual respect and sense of belonging to one region could be created and strengthened. So I have the ideas that if possible, that from now on in Indonesia, I think the students have to not only to learn English and Arabic, but also they have to learn Thai language. They have to learn the Vietnamese language. The same thing, they have to learn Malay. See? So through this language, mastering of languages, the commitment that I need to unite under one vision, one identity, and one caring and sharing community will be achieved, inshallah, in the future. I hope we as academicians, we can contribute to support this idea so that through our contribution to our research, our writing, our propagation, our conference, the commitment to unite under one vision, one identity, one caring and sharing community would be realized. And the Asian kind of association that was only social organization can be transformed into a more complex association that would be not only on the social aspect, but also on the security community, so that the stability, political stability in the region could be maintained. It is our responsibility so that the region is considered to be the peaceful and stability region. All right, thank you, Dr. Busa, for giving me the time. I hope so I'm not taking a very long time, and I hope this presentation could give shed a light so we can have a better discussion. And I hope the discussion later on will enrich the paper that I will complete it as soon as I have completed the paper. For the remaining, just I'm not completing the paper yet, so I really need the the input, the ideas from all participants, so that a better paper could be presented later on and published in the journal. Thank you very much to Dr. Fadila, to Achan Khan, and conference admin, and Achan Nakaron, and Achan Nippon, and yeah, all participants. Thank you very much. I return the floor to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sawadee-ka. Khop-kun khat.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad bin Abu Bakar. I'm so sorry to not to mention you in the beginning that you are from Aceh, Indonesia. I may take for granted because you have already joined us first time already for the short seminar.
I'm not lucky then.
Yeah.
I'm not lucky because for being so familiar.
Yeah. 2 months ago, you have been in our forum. Okay, thank you very much for your insightful contribution, and especially from your presentation, you have given us the conceptual idea of the cooperation that start from the inspiration from our forefather leaders or the founders of the ASEANs, especially the five leaders who have contributed, especially the ideas on the regional thinking that Dr. Fadila has also sent me. When we hear this thing, from the original message from this forefather has given us goosebumps. We feel like I think everyone could think of it, because these people have the idea in mind that the cooperation among the individual states cannot stand so long as we don't have the cooperation, or we don't have the association. But to be real, we have to have some practical cooperation. So right now, like it is like what Muhammad said, that we have to concern with our international our internal problems first. Especially we have many things that we have to solve ourselves, especially in the capacity that we have in the state. And he has also mentioned on the people orientation. I think this point is very important also, because it can be both the challenges and it can be also the problems for themselves, for people in the ASEANs. So I think the policies in many countries that they want to put people first. I think in Malaysia, in Thailand, we are saying the same thing, but whether we are doing the same, the same thing or not, in the practical way, that will be the challenge. Okay, and many challenge that has been mentioned, especially the strong institution of the ASEAN and the world power, rivalries, terrorism, human rights, and many. I want to emphasize in because he has also emphasized it, that is the weak leadership in the region. After we, I think in the past we have Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. He is very outspoken and stubborn leadership. He can be our speaker for many things, not only in the region, but for the Islamic, the OIC also, he tried to be. But after that, I don't think we have that kind of person of leadership. Okay, we may have during the time of Thaksin Shinawatra. I think during that time also, maybe we have the kind of ideas that we have the kind of idea that we want to move forward with development, with economic development and cooperation, and we try to make something in the same region. But Alhamdulillah, I think that all that he has mentioned, I think will be very contributive to our academic circles. And I think this is the time for the floor to give him the comments and the suggestions, or ask him the question, and then he can respond to it. So I open for the floor to give the comments. So any one of you can.
Dr. Muhammad, can I ask one thing? Thank you
Yes.
very much for the presentation. I think I've got a lot of perspectives which I took, true as you said, having to present me myself, I've got to be educating myself about ASEAN again. I mean, if many for the first time, many points for the first time. Okay, so you've mentioned just now about the principle of non-intervention. To me as well, when I was doing the Futures Triangle, it is I wanted to put it as a weakness, but somehow I thought that perhaps that is also a strength. I don't know. The principle of in non-intervention, it is as if we have to put it there in our ASEAN. That is to allow the establishment of ASEAN itself. It is some sort of like the idea of veto in the United Nations, that we had to bear with that in order to allow the existence of the United Nations itself. What is your point of view about this? Can we exist without the principle of non-intervention?
The insightful question. We have discussed that one. I think during the discussion with Datuk Muhammad Muda, then one thing that has been underlined by the leaders of the members of the ASEAN countries is that they already agreed that in terms of internal affairs, none of the countries should interfere unless they ask for. So there is we don't have the veto power like in United States, United Nations organization, where the veto power has the right to intervene in any case there is any intervention of other state to another state. But in the case of Asian countries, when they have conflict within their own countries, particularly on the internal matters, domestic affairs, most of the leaders already agree that none should be interfered unless they ask for the mediation, like the case of Miswari and the Philippine government. So by then, I think Indonesia was asked to mediate, to be a mediator in the consultation to end the conflict, the civil war in Hulu. And by then, we already assumed that. I think this is what is what we call the political conspiracy that has been kept by the leaders of the country, that to maintain their own power. So they already agree that nobody should interfere my life in my own countries. So everybody should have their own. Nobody should interfere. In that case, so now none of the member of the state of the citizen of the member state could seek asylum to other member state. Just like the case of, for instance, the case of GM, separatist movement in Indonesia, then Gerakan Aceh Merdeka. Of course, many of them migrated to Malaysia, but Malaysia never give them asylum, political asylum, because they agree that they have to return them. If they have been arrested, so they have returned to Indonesia. So this is the what you call the agreement that they have been agreed upon by the leaders then of the member state of ASEAN. So because of that, certainly this will not damage their own internal problem. So this Asian Asian Association by then is only the the place where they can meet, they share together the cultural event, and then after that cultural event, they move toward economic cooperation, and until now, they begin the ideas of how, if possible, we move toward a regional security community. I think this because of the political strategy of the elite then, who signed the Treaty of Asian Association, that none of member state interfere inside the domestic matters of the other member state. This is the problem. Unless there is a request of that member state to be mediated, just like the way how the Indonesia mediated between the Nur Miswari and the Philippine government then. And cleverly, the Dr. Tun Mahathir Mohamad in Malaysia. So the only way in order not to hurt Indonesia regarding the the migrant, the refugees, the separatists, the JM, the free freedom fighter from Aceh fleeing the countries to Malaysia. Then Malaysia have given the United Nations to have their own headquarters, the UNHCR. So it is the UNHCR, the one who protect those who flee from who seek for political asylum. So they were transit in Malaysia, get protected by UNHCR until they have been the UNHCR has found the host country that will host them for the political asylum. So this is the way. So Indonesia never get from the policy of Malaysia. See, the same thing with what is going on with Rohingyas today. Rohingyas is fleeing from Burma, from Myanmar, and most of them reach Aceh. And now still we have around 100 Rohingyas who just flee from Myanmar, and they stop by in Aceh. And so we have to respect the policy of Myanmar. In the sense that we have to return them back because they have UNHCR, then we give them to the agent, and they will send back, bring outside Indonesia. So this is the strength of Asian actually. So they do not quarrel among themselves. Among the elite, they will not quarrel because they have to respect each other. And this is one thing. This is the the strength that political elite in Asian member countries, where they can sit down to respect each other. So they never intervene, because by the time they interfere to the local domestic affairs, there the animosity will start. So what they have to do is that only these Asian countries. That's why the question whether this regional security community could be realized, could be achieved, could be founded one day in Asian, or it's just an idea, it's just a program, and there will be another program responding to the world political development particularly. And what is more now is I think more and more Asian members countries is having good relationship with China, and in that case, they like it or not, the America has to leave the region one day. But we try to see that one, perhaps how it goes, whether for how long the Chinese economic hegemony would maintain and would maintain the status quo of the world politics today. And then with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, also is another important issue that perhaps the ASEAN countries has to respond in a very collective manner. This is how in order to maintain the friendship among the members state of Asian countries. That is why, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because still I think we have another two recorded presentation, and then we have left our time for another 50 minutes. And then I think maybe I will give the question after the two presentation from the recorded presentation first. We will go directly to this two presentation from video, okay? And then after that, after finish that, because the presenter will not be there, so you are the only two presenters available to respond, okay? Then maybe we discuss later on, okay? I think Dr. Khan, we can start from Dr. Lily. Dr. Lily will be presenting on the topic of regional resilience in Southeast Asia, ASEAN, and its challenges in digital era. So he is from Bina Nusantara University, Indonesia. So
hello, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer to allow me to present my presentation in this international academic conference on multidisciplinary ASEAN in the age of disruptive society. Secondly, I would like also to thanks to my colleagues, which is the moderator, Dr. Nippon, for allowing me to present in the last sessions, because this time basically I'm flying, so I'm afraid that I couldn't finish my presentations online. So I prepare the video in case I should present in video presentations. Dear brothers and sisters, my topic basically is on regional resilience in Southeast Asia, ASEAN, and its challenges in digital era. As we know that ASEAN, Associations of Southeast Asian Nations, as a regional organization, was established out of bilateral conflict and confrontations between neighboring countries in the regions, like Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines on the issue of Sabah. So, however, with the establishment of ASEAN, this conflict, bilateral conflict within the regions, has been successfully managed. And it was further strengthened, the ASEAN, due to the convergence of ASEAN members in the security outlooks, especially among Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and Singapore. And the expansions of ASEAN was the direct result of reorientations of the members' countries on the domestic priorities and external outlooks. So as such, if we read ASEAN is the only regional organization that has been sustainable. If you look at the EU, for example, we got some feedback where there is an exercise of exiting from EU, like Brexit, British exit. Like Mercosur or UNASUR, somehow was not really sustainable. There is up and down. But ASEAN, which is the product of the Cold War, until now is in the digital era, still sustainable and no history of exiting from ASEAN. In fact, many other countries outside the regions would like to be a member. And finally, now it's becoming a dialogue partners of ASEAN. So as such, today, I would like to discuss how ASEAN has been sustainable as regional organizations. I term it probably in the word of regional resilience. And then, of course, with the entrance of ASEAN in the era of digitalizations, where the internet has has become widely accessible, and the number of social media users are increasing every day. And this development definitely has a price to pay. And to some extent, ASEAN, which is being established during the Cold War as a result of political constructions, now is facing the new era, not only democratization processes of the member countries, but also is the era where digital transactions, digital economy, digital government has taken place, has been taking place. So therefore, this is what I would like to talk. Yeah. Basically, the outline of my presentation is what challenges ASEAN face in digital area. Now we'll talk about three issues. First is in institutional challenges. The second is infrastructure and instruments. And the third is adaptability of diplomat, especially the member countries' diplomat in the era of digitalizations, and try to sum up. Well, when we talk about regional resilience, we understand that it is a dynamic conditions within a region reflecting the state of national resilience of each member countries, the level of interaction among the countries, their commitment to the regions, and regional adaptive capability in facing challenges and opportunities, including the new challenges that ASEAN faces right now, which is digitalizations, which is disruptive technological advancement has been penetrated in diplomatic processes, in administrations, in governance, and so forth and so forth. So therefore, a region would be resilient if it is equipped with four significant elements. In the sense, the region will be sustainable and remain as relevant organizations if these four elements are still intact with the regional organizations. The first, the member countries has achieved national resilience. The second, the level of interactions of the member countries. The third is the degree of commitment of the members. And finally, the ability and capacity of the region, the members, to adapt itself and respond accordingly to the changing environment. What do you mean by national resilience? I will talk later on. But basically, when we talk about national resilience, it is collective contribution of all nations, which is important to the viability of the region as well. Each member must save and must be resilient first. This is most important thing. The next, this concept, if you come back to the history of Indonesia, was initiated by Indonesian government when Suharto assumed the power in the mid-60s. The concept of resilience was known in Indonesian as a ketahanan or national resilient ketahanan nasional. It was basically invented and developed by the military as the holistic security doctrine in response to the existing political economic chaos in the country. And this national resilience comprised of 8 aspects, and we call it Astra Gatra. And these 8 aspects composed of 3 Gatra, which is 3 aspects, which is related to the natural aspects, and Pancha Gatra, which is 5 social aspects. When you talk about 3 Gatra or 3 what he calls natural aspects, which is given. Nobody can choose, nobody can engineer. It is a given from God. Like a country geographical features, natural resources, and capability of the people, especially people itself. Indonesia has huge country and strategic geographical locations, rich natural resources. Even the people, the country has been most populated nation in Southeast Asia. Now almost comprised of 170 million people. which in ASEAN now is almost near to 600 millions inhabitants. So in Indonesia itself is almost half of it. So three aspects constitute regional resilience. If these three are becoming known and recapitulated as natural aspects that can contribute to the national resilience: geographical location, natural resources, and capability of the people. While another 5 social aspects, it comes to the ideology, politics, economy, social, cultural, as well as defense and security arrangement. So these 5 aspects, which is engineered socially, politically, economically, that contribute to the national resilience. What do you mean by ideology? Ideology in the sense that the country has an ideology which is being accepted by the whole nations. So it is very much stable. Political stability, where for example, the political system has been accepted by the people and people can participate in the political processes, then it's smooth. This must be somehow stable political system. In terms of economic, for example, it must have economic development and economic stability. People are well off. People are being good being, has an opportunity to have a job, to have an income, yeah, and of course has reached to the standard of living. It's not only in terms of GDP, but also in terms of the welfare of the people. When we talk about welfare, definitely it is about housing, basic needs, yeah, education, as well as the access to the health services. Plus, of course, if you look at it in terms of basic need. Yeah. And of course, social cultural, which is very much cohesive. People are not being divided, but integrated. And finally, as what we see as a nation state, we have to have defense and security aspects. So these 3 natural aspects and 5 social aspects can contribute to the national resilience. If the member countries of ASEAN has reached that national resilience, and to some extent they have the level, the degree of total contribution of the sum of cohesiveness and attitude of accommodations, then it is necessary to enable the region to withstand pressure and eventually rebound to its regional nature of state. So therefore, look at how the ASEAN members committed and interacted with each other within the regions. This is most important. So the level of interaction of the ASEAN member countries determines the level of regional resilience. Next is the degree of commitment. Commitment of the members, the greater the degree of the commitment of each country, the higher resilience of the region will be. That is the hypothetical thing. So if the countries of ASEAN members have a greater degree of commitment, in the sense that they would like to put forward the regional interest rather than national interest, because national interest has been fulfilled in terms of resilience. So therefore, they come forward and put the regional interest first. Then finally, ASEAN centrality will prevail. This is most important. So this is the compulsory requirement for ASEAN members to have. But regional resilience cannot be stopped from that. Another attribute that ASEAN has to have is adaptive capabilities. Besides having national resilience, level of interaction of the member countries, the degree of commitment to the region, finally, adaptive capabilities, the ability and the capacity of the region to adapt itself and respond accordingly to the changing environment. Like now, we are coming into the era of digitalization. So there are challenges and opportunities at the same time. So how the ASEAN member countries, especially representative, diplomat, can use and deploy the technologies, the digital instruments in order to first sustain the interests of regional organization as ASEAN come together, how to face the challenges politically, socially, security aspect, and so forth from within as well as from outside the region. That is the characteristic of regional resilience. So therefore, resilient region that ASEAN pursues, ASEAN has committed to establish regional resilience. As we know that Adam Malik, the first, of course, person that initiated the establishment of ASEAN, during Suharto's time in 1972, committed that regional resilience could enhance the capabilities and ability of each member countries and each people in all field of national endeavor in order to stand with or to withstand and overcome all kind of outside interference and adverse influence harmful to its sounds and harmonious development. That is what has been remarked by Adam Malik. So regional resilience here is important, and we need to contribute to the what we call sustainability and resilience of the region itself. So when we come into the digitalization processes, so there are challenges that ASEAN face. One of the most important challenges is that out of the spread social media and the issue of the fake news, for example, that influence the perception of different traits and suspicious among the ASEAN countries. As we understand how the ASEAN countries were suspicious to each other before the establishment of ASEAN. And ASEAN came in, ASEAN changed their suspicious perceptions toward the more on the establishment of balance of confidence. But with the digitalization era, these perceptions can be disturbed because of the emergence of the fake news. And as such, for example, if I notice with the fake news or hoax, it is not only detrimental to society cohesiveness, but it may also destabilize the government. And I recorded in 9 September 2017, for example, the ASEAN adopted a framework in the ASEAN Minister Responsible for Information, AMRI, where the talk was about the proliferations of the fake news in the region. The minister agreed in that meeting that there is a need for multi-sector approaches involving private sectors, media companies, and educational sectors to help combating the fake news or the problem that ASEAN face right now. And then a letter in 2018, ASEAN adopted the framework and joint declaration to minimize the harmful impact of the fake news, to promote cybersecurity awareness and better counter the spread of the fake news, online information. So in this framework, if you look at it, the leaders agreed that the member state shall take notice of several key points in order to face the challenges of the digital or of the fake news in the era of digitalizations. The first, for example, the leaders argue that there is a need to improve digital literacy. Secondly, there is also a need to strengthen national capacity to detect and respond to fake news. The third, encourage stakeholders to build on the existing anti-fake news norms and guides. And finally, the leaders agreed first is to share best practices and experiences among the ASEAN member states as usual. Because one of the most important and successful exercise among the ASEAN countries is sharing best practices and experience in any issues, because ASEAN still hold the principle of non-interference and nobody can intervene in any domestic circumstances. So the best practices, exchange views, dialogue is the most important method in order to face the challenges, especially in the era of digitalizations. Of course, the problem like unresolved borders and other territories dispute among the other countries, among the ASEAN countries, can really be an issue of the social media, an issue of the fake news. Because the problem in ASEAN is not being solved. If there is territorial dispute like Cambodia and Thailand or Indonesia and Malaysia, they are not solving the problem, but they are managing it in the best way so that the conflict is not rising, the conflict is not escalating, but they are able to hold and manage so that this is a status quo will remain, but there is no conflict. So here what we can experience how ASEAN succeeded in managing the dispute, in managing the bilateral territorial dispute, for example. And then, of course, in the era of digitalizations, ASEAN was really being threatened by the issue of polarizations of the ASEAN countries, because ASEAN countries has been asymmetric in the sense of development was not equal to each other. So some countries are very much developed, like Singapore and Brunei to some extent, and some more income per capita rather than the other side, for example, like Laos, Cambodia, and other developing countries. Myanmar is still behind far. So therefore, the external threat that has been very much influential on certain countries in the regions still becoming the potential threat to divided ASEAN among US bloc or the countries that supported US and being supported by US. Another one is the bloc that is supporting China and being supported by China. And this is clearly witnessed in the summit of 25th summit in 2015, I think, where ASEAN the first time could not have a consensus on the South China Seas issue, as well as on the code of conduct, in South Chinese issue, South Chinese issue, conflict in South China. And this polarization is becoming wider and wider because of the influence the social media and others, and some extent the developed countries was keep influencing and keep controlling through various methods. They have some engagement with many countries in ASEAN, which seem to be supporting and get supported by them. And this is what we see, the conflict, I mean the divided Southeast Asian countries are becoming very much prevail, and we can see that which bloc is belong to China versus belong to US, for example. This is the most important thing. So therefore, if you look at, for example, the digital issues in the regional organizations are very much important. Yeah, like for example, recently we got the spread of the fake news becoming more alarming during the COVID-19 outbreak. So East ASEAN countries has been challenged with the press freedom and more rigid censorship. The limited information from the government had urged the people to seek information from the media. And therefore, there is hoax and fake news, for example, on vaccinations, whether this vaccination is really helpful or the opposite, becoming a very much dangerous, harmful to people's life, for example. So this fake news has definitely influenced many people, agencies, institutions in Southeast Asia. So what should be done by ASEAN then in order to remain as a resilient region? To me, ASEAN has 4 strategies in place. What we see now is how to really actualize and implement these strategies. The first strategy is, of course, I see it as ASEAN community, where it is divided by 3 pillars: ASEAN political security community, ASEAN economic community, and ASEAN social cultural community. We have to materialize it because these are becoming very much important strategy in order to be more committed and have interaction between ASEAN itself. Remember, it is important to have regional resilience by maintaining the interactions and commitment. And of course, institutionally, if you look at it from the institutional issues, ASEAN has ASEAN Charter, and we have to implement the ASEAN Charter. We govern the nation based on these documents so that we can interact in a very formal as well as informal as usual. Because ASEAN Charter, it is the institutions, constitutions that every member state has to conform with it. And the third, of course, we have to enhance connectivity with ASEAN people so that ASEAN will know each other and ASEAN identity finally will be shaped and felt by ASEAN people, especially when ASEAN people are facing the other people from outside the regions. So that ASEAN will unite when we come and confront and counter, for example, the external threat outside the regions. Because the identity of ASEAN is very much fluctuate in the sense that we cannot really feel identity as an ASEAN identity when we are talking within the ASEAN itself. What we will have is also national identity. But this ASEAN as regional identity can be felt by anyone, especially a diplomat, when they are facing the opposite, the counter partner outside the region. So we call it, we as an ASEAN members would like to have this and this and this. Pursuing some interest in Australia, for example, in Japan, in US, for example. So when we confront the outsiders, then we call it is an ASEAN. But when talk to the ASEAN people within the ASEAN regions, it's very difficult. Everybody will acknowledge and identify themselves as the national identity. Oh, I'm Myanmarese, or I'm Vietnamese, or I'm Indonesian, and so forth and so forth. But when come together in the group, facing the other identity beyond the region, then people will say that, oh, we are from ASEAN. So therefore, to strengthen that particular feeling, we have to enhance the connectivity between the peoples within the ASEAN, from the elite as well as non-masses. And of course, as the final strategy, centrality of ASEAN is important. When we have national resilience, when we have a high level of interaction, the greater degree of commitment, then we can have one voice within ASEAN. And indeed, it has been evidence in the creations of the East Asian regionalism, where ASEAN is becoming a driver, because the China, Japan, and South Korea cannot sit together. They were sitting because of ASEAN's the one who drives the meeting. They have historical baggages. They are very much sensitive when we talk about this East Asian regionalism. Okay, so in order to strengthen this, remember, ASEAN should cross subsidy. So ASEAN should share and care each other. Sharing community is important. And of course, we have to enhance the connectivity and increase the life quality of the welfare of the people. And now we have to be more concerned with the educations and enhancing capacity in order to respond the new challenges created from the era of digitalizations. Especially, we have to be more critical in order not to be easily influenced by fake news and others. Yeah. And next, there must be a greater degree of commitment. If we feel that ASEAN has contributed more on our life, so we'll have that kind of commitment. Like our grand and the fathers, for example, the founding fathers of ASEAN, they feel that ASEAN has becoming very much important in identifying, maintaining security in Southeast Asia, because each country, each member countries promise not to use any force, not to intervene each other. Yeah, instead they would like to respect and be responsible for what they are doing, and of course they would like also to restrain, yeah, and to control, so that can sit together, can enhance the confidence each other. And finally, in order to remain as resilient regions, ASEAN should enhance the adaptive capability among the member ASEAN, especially the diplomats who deals with each other's matters, who convey the interests of each nations within the regions, and who fight for regional interests against the outside institutions or countries outside the regions. That is what I can see, how ASEAN basically can be remaining as resilient regions if we can fulfill the issues of like digital era. We face many challenges, not only from fake news, but also from the cybersecurity issues. That's it. And thank you very much. I think we'll accommodate some feedback, critiques, questions. If I have time and join the conference, we can communicate. Otherwise, we can send email to me at yulyadi@yahoo.com or lilyulyadi@venus.edu. Again, thank you very much for your attentions. And I'm sorry I couldn't present directly online because I'm on the way to East Indonesia trip. Thank you, and please proceed. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dr. Nippon, Lily is joining.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have seen Lily is present now here, and actually he present. I think during the first 15 minutes, but already there we have opened the video, so we continue. I want to apologize also that Lily, I didn't keep the promise that I will put you in the last one. Otherwise, you can present. But because we have the same topic like yours, from Dr. Muhammad, Dr. Fadila, who are focusing on the ASEAN, the organization itself. So we try to put them together. Dr. Lily, I think you are safely reached the destination, so you are present now. I think at the end of the topic presentation by another one, I will proceed the other one that is left by Dr. Khalid Abdulwahid. He also could not present in.
Excuse me, Dr. Nippon.
Yes, yes.
Since I'm online now, if there is question, then can be paused today or now, because otherwise I'm going to another trip for 3.5 hours.
Oh, I see.
So I'm
maybe,
going to try. In the
okay.
car. So I afraid that the line will not be secured.
Okay.
Stable.
So
if there is any questions that I can immediately answer them.
Okay. Then thank you very much. So then I think we give the time for him for at least 5 minutes to respond from the question from the comments of the participants. So I leave the floor to everyone.
Sorry to disturb all the programs that has been planned.
Never mind. It's okay.
If there is no question, then you can proceed, please.
Okay. So we have no question. Dr. Khan, then we can proceed for the other presentation by the video. This paper belongs to Dr. Khalid Abdulwahid from the Faculty of Information System Management, University Technology Mara, Malaysia, and he right now he holds the position as a deputy rector, student affairs of University Technology Mara, and though his master degree and PhD is not in our field, but his bachelor degree is on international relation. Exactly, he involved in the in many kinds of the movement in Malaysia, especially the political movement. For example, the some kind of ABIM. This is the important function that he has been doing in his country. So I will leave the session to the video presentation.
Good afternoon to all participants of the conference, as well as the organizer. I would like to thank you for the organizer who invited me to present in this conference, and I also would like to apologize to the organizer because I couldn't present online since I have an urgent meeting with my top management. Okay, my presentation this evening is on the Malaysian politics during COVID-19. And in this presentation, I will give you the picture of what was going on during COVID-19, especially in the context of Malaysian politics. Okay? And as we know that the outbreak of the COVID-19 began in mid-December 2019 in Wuhan City, Hubei, China. And it was declared as a pandemic by WHO in March 2020. And according to yesterday's statistic, we have a confirmed cases in the world is 518 million cases, and in Malaysia is 4.5 million cases, and active cases in the world is 50 million, and in Malaysia is 22,953. For the death cases in the world, we have 6.3 million, and in Malaysia, we have so far 35,590 cases. And we cannot deny that the impact of the COVID-19 is very huge. So we have impact in economics, which leads to the jobless, with unemployment, national debt, and government has to impose the MCO in our society. And in our education, we have to conduct teaching and learning online, in which some students complain that there was ineffective way of teaching and learning. And in politics, okay, so we can notice that many countries have to postpone the parliamentary session. They cannot do a campaign during election, and many people were dissatisfied the way the government handled the COVID-19. And also, it's not exception in Malaysia. So we also have the same issues. Okay, so in Malaysia we have a limited parliamentary gathering, and the gathering has to use digital technology for the meeting and so on. And during COVID-19 we have 3 state elections. Okay, so we have Sabah state election in 26 September 2020. We have Malacca state election in 20th November 2021, and we have Johor recently. We have Johor state election in 12 March 2022, and we can notice that many of the national budget went to COVID-19. Okay, and we know that since the 14th general election, the opposition party took over the government, led by Tun Dr. Mahathir, and this is the beginning of the instability of the Malaysian politics. And during the MCO, we can see that many of business firms are face the problem of paying salary to their employees. And most of them are able to survive only 1 to 2 months if full or half paying during the MCO. Okay, and according to statistic, 12.3% of companies or firms can earn revenue through the sales of online and services, and 9.8% of sales are physical and shop premises. And 88.8% of company private limited face the challenge of paying workers, and 70.7% individual ownership company face the absence of customer, and 62.5% face paying salary. The main problem is how the companies pay the salary to their workers. And during the MCO in 18th March 2020, Malaysian government lost 2.4 billion daily. Okay, and from that case, the government tried to recover economic very quickly in order to reduce work termination and increase production and demand activities. Okay, and after the fall of Pakatan Harapan, which led by the Tun Mahathir, we can see that many MPs jump to other party. That's why I say that it marks the instability of the political system in Malaysia. Yeah, and we can see that during COVID-19, we have 3 prime minister took over the position. Yeah, so recently we have what we call Ismail Sabri as a prime minister, who replaced Muhyiddin Yassin, who took over the post of Tun Mahathir Mohamad. Okay, and after collapse of the Pakatan Harapan, okay, the National Alliance, or we call the PN, took over the government led by Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin with a small number of seats in parliament, but he was supported by the other parties, coalition parties. And actually, the political instability began when Dr. Mahathir refused to handing over the post of Prime Minister to Anwar Ibrahim, because during the 14th election in 2018, Mahathir promised to Anwar that after 2 years, he will hand over the post of Prime Minister to Anwar Ibrahim. However, when in February 2020, Tun Mahathir refused to hand over the post to Anwar Ibrahim, which marks the fall of the Pakatan Harapan. Okay? And after that, after the fall of Pakatan Harapan, Muhyiddin Yassin, who is the leader of Bersatu Party, took over the position of Tun Mahathir as a prime minister, and he was accused by the opposition party that he took over the government from a back door. However, his action was done against the Malaysian Constitution. As a consequence, okay, 4 other states in which majority are from National Alliance now change to the hand of Muhyiddin Yassin, which are Johor, Melaka, Perak, and Kedah. Okay, so those parties experience changes in state government, where PN gained the majority in the state legislative assembly, and before that, the majority seats were in the hand of Pakatan Harapan. Okay, and the way that the way of PM government handling of pandemic COVID-19 will destabilize the coalition in mid 2021, and it become a cause where the fall of the Muhyiddin Yassin. Okay, as a consequence, UMNO, the we call the party who dominate in the Malaysian politics before, withdrew support for the government and called Muhyiddin to resign. Okay, in 16 August 2021, Muhyiddin and his cabinet resigned after losing majority support. Okay, and UMNO Vice President by the name of Ismail Sabri Yaakob was appointed as Prime Minister for 4 days later. Okay, and these are the chronology of Malaysian politics since 2020 to 2022. Okay, and the beginning of the instability of the Malaysian politics begins on the 21st February. Yeah, where it is the time Mahathir has to hand over the position of Prime Minister to Anwar Ibrahim, but he refused to hand over as promised in general election 2018. Okay, and on the 23rd February, some of the members in PKR led by Anwar conduct a meeting, and they support Muhyiddin Yassin to be a next prime minister. And this meeting and this decision was supported by UMNO, Bersatu, and PAS. Okay, and on the 24th February, Azmin, who was a deputy president of the PKR, led by Anwar Ibrahim, and his faction were sacked from the PKR party as a result of the Sheraton move. Okay. On the 25th February, Agong summoned 90 MP to have an audience with Yang Tuan Agong to get an information on the current political crisis. And after that, when the Pakatan Harapan no longer has a majority seat in Parliament, in the 28th of February, Muhyiddin was named as Prime Minister, backed by 26 Bersatu, 10 PKR, UMNO, PAS, MCA, and MIC. Okay, MCA is the party represented by Chinese. MIC is the party represented by India. Okay. On the 29th February, Muhyiddin was declared to have convenience majority of MP in Parliament. And on the 1st of March, Muhyiddin was sworn as the 8th Prime Minister. Okay. And on the 7th March, Shafi'i Afdal, the leader of Barisan in Sabah, seeking to table a motion of confidence in Dr. Mahathir, but it was rejected by the Speaker. That means Shafi'i Afdal, the leader of the Barisan Party, tried to challenge the decision made by that Yang Pertuan Agong, but his motion was rejected by the Speaker, and Mahathir sought to table a motion of non-confidence vote, and it was accepted and scheduled for 18th of May 2020. Okay. And in January 2021, some MP from UMNO began to public call for withdrawal from PN coalition, in which they are not satisfied with the way Mahathir handled the COVID-19. Okay, as a result, PN remains only 109 seats in the parliament out of 222 seats. So the seat were minority, not majority. Okay? And on the 12th January, Yang di-Pertuan Agong consented to a national emergency proclamation under Article 150 of the Malaysian Constitution to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, effective from 12th January 2021 to the 1st August 2021. It means that Parliament officially was suspended. Okay, so and on the 23rd January, 150 PM from the opposition parties were against the proclamation of emergency by accusing the Prime Minister move was to hold on power. Okay, so the opposition parties still see that the proclamation of emergency was not necessary yet. Okay, on the 4th March of 2021, UMNO announced its support for PN till the dissolution of Parliament and the support will be withdrawn after the dissolution of Parliament. Okay? And on the 16th June, Congress of Lula agrees that Parliament should be reconvened as well as possible, and emergency declaration should not be extended. Okay? And should be instead be lifted on the 1st August 2021. On the 5th of July, the Prime Minister office announced that the Parliament will be reconvened with 2 special sessions of Dewan Rakyat from 26 July to 2 August and Dewan Negara from 3rd to 5th of August. Okay. On the 8th July 2021, the UMNO Supreme Council meeting had been held. Okay? And BN Chairman and UMNO President Ahmad Zaid announced that UMNO would officially withdraw support for PM Muhyiddin with immediate effect. And he cited the government failure to contain the COVID-19 pandemic and calling for a new appointment of Prime Minister. So he used the reason of the failure of containing the COVID-19 pandemic. On the 10th of July, UMNO Vice President and newly appointed Deputy Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob say that the majority of UMNO Supreme Council disagree with the President's decision to withdraw support for Muhyiddin. So there is a conflict between President and Vice President in UMNO in the support for Muhyiddin. On the 21st July, the proclamation of emergency was ended. And on the 3rd August, UMNO President announced the withdrawal of UMNO support for Muhyiddin Yassin as a consequence. Two ministers, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources and Minister of Higher Education for UMNO resigned from the post. Okay? And on the 9th of August, Member of Parliament for UMNO withdrew their support for the Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin. Okay? And the 17th of August, Muhyiddin resigned and dissolved his cabinet. On the 21st August, Sabri Yaakob from UMNO was nominated as the next Prime Minister, who gained 114 majority seat in the lower house. Okay, and on the 12th September 2021, MOU was signed by the Prime Minister and the head of the opposition party on bipartisan cooperation and proposed reform for greater political cooperation and stability during the COVID-19 pandemic in order to maintain the stability of Malaysian political system. So they have MOU. So this is the chronology of Malaysian politics. So I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. I have to thank Dr. Khalid bin Abdul Wahid for his presentation, even by the video. I think we should have the short conversation or on this end of the session, that we open the floor for everyone for another 5 or 10 minutes. I think after that, we will have a closing remark by the Dean of Faculty of Political Science, Assistant Professor Dr. Satin Sunthornpan. He is now with us. I think after that, we will have a photo session after that, inshallah. So right now, I would like to inform first that your comment, your questions, your suggestions, for those who are not in the presentation, like Dr. Khalid, Dr. Professor Shamsuddin Al-Taya from Philippines, you can forward or you can pass it to our organizing committee in order to make another comment for our publishing in the journals. So right now, I think it's the time for us to make a comments or put some question or suggestion, or we can discuss. I think Dr. Lily is still with us now, and your signal is clear, right? So I give the floor for everyone. Maybe you have some question or some comments or some critiques.
Well, I can comment, I guess.
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
I so actually listen to the last three. I didn't have time because of class teach. But one of the questions that I maybe want to ask Dr. Muhammad, because I have been listening to you quite a bit. I mean, I agree with your points about, it seemed to be that the ASEAN themselves, might need to change. I really think the institution itself is a product of the Cold War, and it's necessarily in the beginning that to form this organization by not intervening each other, because we were more or less were dictatorship, the government at that time during the Cold War period. But nowadays, even Thailand, we become more democratic, and to have a multilateral institution whom have this principle of not interfering with each other, that is against the idea of multilateralism to begin with, because you cannot cooperate on the issue of politics and security without telling the other that's what right and wrong. I mean, if you leave them just to close the door and do whatever behind the door by themselves, even abusing human rights, or with the Rohingya or whatever that we have in the country, for example, like in Cambodia, I think in the end is gonna not actually make ASEAN become resilient. It's gonna render ASEAN become useless, and in the end, we cannot use ASEAN to counterbalance the great power like like the US or like China or even Japan, which they have been dominating ASEAN since 1970s and 80s. How can we compete with them if we are not required to change the way how ASEAN function without intervening each other, like internal affair? I think that's a big question that we have to think about the reformation of the organization if we want to move forward to become, a more relevant in the future. Because all of this major power that deal with us, they in their interest, they want to divide us to begin with. I don't think they want to deal us as a whole if it's go counter their own interests. I really think both China or US, they prefer to deal us bilaterally, because that fit their own bargaining chip when they deal with a small country one by one, and that the principle of not united, not interfering with each other, that's an idea that preventing us to move forward into the future. That would be my comment, and if anybody want to respond to that, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dr. Muhammad can respond. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. P. We meet again after 2 months. I agree with that. You are very true. We have to change. I think the leaders in ASEAN member countries have to change. They have to be to be open, and then they have to uphold the idea of democratic democratic and upholding the rule of law. They have to respect the human right. But unfortunately, I don't think so that the leader that we have now is ready for that. We have to be very optimistic, of course. I think this is the responsibility of our academic life. As the lecturer, as a chance in the university, we have to prepare the generation that are ready for that one, for the change, and for the change, for the betterment, and to move forward, not to be trapped within the Cold War, and perhaps we can say this what we call static local, static individual selfish political elite interests that's focusing on maintaining the status quo and rejecting the change that could bring a better transformation of the country itself. So the issue is that almost all members of the countries in Asian Association, we are facing similar problem. We have the internally we are facing the problem of not ready yet to live as democratic as it should be. because nepotism still there. Corruption is the what you call the corruption is the main problem of the of the challenge that should be minimized within the ASEAN members countries. Because of this corruption, nepotism, what do you call this one? Nepotism, coalition, all these jeopardize the stabilities of an economic development within the country of the member state. So when the what you call patronism and then nepotism is rampant within the political system, then the leader will certainly maintain the old policy that is we should not interfere the affairs of domestic life of each member state. But by the time this corruption is no longer there, everybody is believing in what called the noble ideas of this democratic freedom of speech, freedom of right, and then through free, fair competition, people will develop some kind of like to get what you call complete whole welfare and then economic development is disparity of economic development has been minimized. I think only then the leadership in Asian countries will ready for the change and ready to accept any criticism, any constructive ideas, so that they can cooperatively working together to build a better system within their own countries, and then it will have a positive impact on the regional association, of course. And for the timing, and I don't think so that we have already the type of leadership. We are in the form of what you call it. Yeah, we are still in the process of what you call this one. After long time dictatorship, and then we move to democracy, and then while we are moving toward maturity in terms of democratic system of politics and economy, everything. Also, then we have been attacked by the rise of the neo-communism, neo-nationalism, and then the capitalism. So this has become what you call biggest challenge for the Asian member state to move forward. So what they have to do is just maintain the status quo, and then when they have meeting for formal learning, they decide, they talk, and then they start signing the agreement. Okay, we are going to have the program. And because of the what you call custodian and the strong administration is not there, institution is not there, then all the agreement, economic society, Asian Economic Society, and then what we call this one security community, regional security community. All this is only a lip service, and we really need a strong leadership, a strong democratic leadership for the ASEAN to move forward, to be transformed into a better regional association. I think that's my comment. Thank you, Dr. Pete.
So, any more questions? So if not, I think it's the high time for us to call upon Professor Satin Sunthornpan, the Dean of Faculty of Political Science, to officially close the session and close the International Conference on Multidisciplinary ASEAN Plus in the Age of Disruption 2022.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nipon. And distinguished guests, professor, scholar, faculty members, students, all participants in this international conference in the title of the multidisciplinary ASEAN Plus in the Age of Disruptive Society that arranged by the Faculty of Political Science, Rangkampeng University during yesterday and today. Have concluded with a great success. It has been a great honor and pleasure for the Faculty of Political Science to host and welcome all the keynote speakers. I have to thank you for the Deputy Director General from the Department of ASEAN as our keynote speaker yesterday, Dr. Prani Tiparat from Chulalongkorn University, also with the professor, scholar from many countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, USA, and also with Thailand. During the conference, we had a comprehensive and fruitful discussion on the strengthening and advancing the politics, international relations, international politics that relate with the ASEAN issue in the variety perspective, maintaining and promoting ASEAN relevance as well as ASEAN centrality in its external relations, especially in the evolving the regional architecture. We also exchange views with many scholars and professors on the regional and international issues of common interest and concern. So the success of this conference has been possible due to the valuable assistance, support, and cooperation accorded to us by all the staff from the Faculty of Political Science, Rangkampeng University, also with the staff from the Office of Educational and Technology, Rangkampeng University. And I'd like to personally thank you for the key person that mainly support in this event, like Dr. Kan Bunya Kanchana, Dr. Kitipot Puthiwanit, Dr. Nipon Soheng, Dr. Peter Nimit Ang, Dr. Pakarang Chinchit, and other people who have not mentioned their name. I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you all for such assistance and support. And I look forward to your continued assistance and support for the next event, because this year we arranged this event to celebrate also the 50th anniversary of Rangkampeng University. But for the next year, we have a big event that waits for us, because for the next year in 2023 is a 50th anniversary of the Faculty of Political Science, Rangkampeng University. So we believe that we will arrange the event like this again. So we look forward to see all the professors, scholars, also friends from many countries to join in this event to discuss and exchange the view, everything that maybe have a productive result in for the event. So thank you, and thank you for everybody that joined this international conference this time.
Thank you very much.
So we have a photo session. I think everyone should open the camera.
Okay, so distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a productive and inspiring time together, and this event is about to come to the very end. I hope you found the presentations on this conference are informative and helpful. And now, to end the day, I will leave you with a quote by William Hollard, who once said, "Learning and innovation go hand in hand. The arrogance of success is to think that What you did yesterday will be sufficient for tomorrow. Let us be guided by all the things we have learned and heard throughout the conference and be able to see you all again in our next event. Thank you very much. And please open the camera to take a photo group together.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dean. Thank you very much
Thank you.
on the
Bye-bye.
committee's
Thank
members.
you, Mr. Wirashon.
And thank you very much. We
Mr.
have also
Thanakit as
Professor
well.
Swadi Jainal Abidin from